To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning. I've been talking of late with local members of Congress about the government shutdown that looms September 30th. Last week, Democrat Lois Frankel and Republican Brian Mast. Today, local Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick.
Well, we're in an unnecessary position, which we shouldn't really be in, because the issues that we're actually debating right now, there was agreement that was struck by the Republican conference leader, and that agreement with Biden is what's at issue right now. Every dollar that they're proposing is less than what they already agreed to, which is just them reneging on the issue. What we're seeing more and more is that the civil war that they're having in the Republican Party is being amplified by the extremists, and that amplification is really putting the American people at risk. We have 115,000 federal workers in the state of Florida who are now living in anxiety, wondering if their checks are going to be frozen, paid, and how they're going to pay their bills. And this is when we have to really be focusing on putting people over politics and not allowing our country to go into any kind of government shutdown.
And Congresswoman, for people inside your district, what could a shutdown mean in terms of food aid, other kinds of federally supported programs? I understand Social Security separate, that wouldn't inhibit Social Security checks, but for people sitting at home, not only in your district, but in other districts in our community, what would it mean to them?
Well, for all of our federal workers, your funding and your paychecks would be paused. So that means they would not be able to pay their rent, their mortgages, their groceries, just basic survival skills. We would be reneging on our federal workers. Our private businesses will be terribly impacted because any kind of loan that they're applying for, international trade, which our constituents depend on, our ports depend on, just our economy in general, especially in South Florida and throughout Florida, to be honest with you, that deals with any kind of international trade or in any international concepts will be impacted negatively, but also mortgages, people who are applying for mortgages. So your everyday life is going to be impacted. And it seems like the Republican conference has no problem jeopardizing this. But I want to be fair, because there's some Republicans who are actually not wanting this war, not wanting to renege. But it seems like the Republican conference is really just playing towards the extremists and even considering reneging on their word. And as a country of character, we can't allow extremists to come in and now try to renege on a deal they cut with the president, but a deal they really cut with the American people.
How might this impact your elderly constituents?
Immensely. A lot of our elderly constituents right now are still trying to recover from the pandemic. They're still trying to afford groceries. They're trying to pay their homeowners insurance, their assessments that I hear so many of our condo owners are complaining about the assessment fees that they can't afford. And so when you compound all these issues, you find it even harder. And the vulnerability of wondering if you're going to actually get your stipends, if you're going to get your payments, just the vulnerability of the government shutting down, it shouldn't be there. But I also want to remind us about our vets. We have so many veterans who are depending on the federal government, who are depending on care, who are depending on even getting their reimbursements. So I think that it's a travesty to increase this kind of anxiety right now, but more so to be perpetuating it. Out of all the appropriation bills that need to be passed, which is 12, I think at this point we've only passed one. And the other 11 are being negotiated based on a promise that they made that now they want to, concede or revert back on. So that's really what's disappointed right now.
How have we gotten to this place in this country, the constant loggerheads?
Well, I believe that we got here because it seems that the extremists have been dominating the field as far as their conversation. But really, I think it's a lack of leadership. I think Speaker McCarthy really has to put the hammer down when it comes to the extremists. Unfortunately, some of these extremists live in our states. And so making them know that extreme opinions only divide us and not bring us together is what really needs to happen.
You've used the term extremist, but Republicans will argue there's nothing extreme by saying we have runaway debt in this country that is sinking us and that we are trying to draw a line in the sand and say we have got to stop this insane runaway national debt that we simply can't afford. Social Security, they argue, is functionally insolvent. They argue the same about Medicare. They say more of the same is not going to work, and that it's extreme to suggest that we cannot and should not put the brakes on, however painful it might be in the short run.
Well, that's not a complete Republican consensus. If we see what the extremists are asking for, it's totally different. They're asking for extreme measures that would actually devastate the American people. When we first started negotiating appropriations, some of the cuts they were asking for were going to drive us into a recession. And there were other Republicans who felt like we shouldn't take these extreme measures. So that's when I talk about the Republican civil war that we're seeing in Congress. It is not a unified front in which they're saying this is the direction we should be going in. It is where we see every single day that the Rules Committee is being blocked by extremists, that when we're supposed to come in and vote, the votes actually aren't occurring because they're blocking it. That's not the functioning government that everyone elected us to be a part of. Blocking votes, reneging on promises, it's not how we move our country forward. Honest politics means that when you agree, you stick to it. If they had stuck through to it, we would have passed these bills. No one would be living in anxiety, and we wouldn't be talking about a government shutdown. Let's look at what happened from 2018 and 2019 government shutdowns. We lost more than $11 billion in our economy. $11 billion. That's in our recent history. There's no reason for us to be here having this conversation because extremists want to impose their will because they didn't get what they wanted in the negotiation. This is not a debate.
No, I apologize. Final thoughts before we go?
Well, it's just, I want to remind all my colleagues as we move forward that every day that we pause, every day that there's a discussion, every day that the Republican conference is not passing these bills is every day that we put the American people who just came out of a recession, who just came out of a pandemic, at risk and living with an anxious environment. We have to be honest with our constituents and make sure we're living up to our promises. And that's by making sure we do not allow a government shutdown and that we're not pandering to extremists any longer.
September 30th, the day. If nothing's decided then, the shutdown will commence after the midnight hour leading into October 1st.